welcome to the newest episode of Head Speaks, your home of all things geeky. I am your host, Aaron Brotherhead Moss. Let the show begin. Hey, true believers. Here's Brotherhead with another episode of Head Speaks. We've got episode 77, and I'm only going to look at a comic book today. Well, not a comic book, but as I discussed at the end of last episode, I'm going to go ahead and look at the last 3 issues of The Power of the Atom. So, let's get started.
Faster than a speeding bullet.
In the great hall of the Justice League,
Spider-Man and his amazing friends.
the Justice League of America versus the Legion of Doom. This is
What's in Head's Long Box?
Dedicated to truth, justice, and peace for all mankind. The world's greatest super friends.
So, dear listeners, let's begin with our look at The Power of the Atom. We're looking at issues 16 through 18. I was deciding how to do this. What I'm going to do is read off the credits. The credits are the same for all the books for the most part, so we'll go through the credits. These are the same for all the books, as I just said. And then I'll look at the covers, and then we'll look at each issue. So first up, Power of the Atom 16. This one was cover dated September of 1989. On sale date was August the 1st of 1989. The cover price of all these books was $1. The title of this was called Renegades. The writer of this storyline, all 3 issues, was Tom Robert Pure. Penciler was Graham Nolan. Inkers, Keith Stan Wilson. Letterer, Albert Tobias de Guzman. Colorist, Nancy Houlihan. And the editor for this was Mike Carlin. Again, all those creators worked on all 3 issues. The penciler for all 3 issues was Graham Nolan and Brett Breeding. Power of the Atom 17. It was cover dated August of 1989 with an on-sale date of August the 29th, 1989, and that one was entitled Sword of the Atom. And finally, Power of the Atom number 18 had a cover date November of 1989, on-sale date September the 26th, 1989, and that story is called Life After Death. And like I said, they had the same writers, editor, all that was the same, so I'm not going to read those all again. So now that I've got that out of the way, let's go ahead and look at the issues itself. We will start with issue 16. The cover of this one, we see the atom smeared on the front of a windshield, pouring down rain. There's some driver behind the wheel looking at maniacally. This is a close-up of the windshield. The windshield wiper is swiping and hitting Ray in the legs. Not actually something from the issue. It's a good cover. I like it. It's very nicely drawn. I like the shadowing, the guy glinting in the background there. But not something that actually happens in the issue. So if I was grading this, I would take points off for just the fact that this didn't actually happen. But it's a nice cover, though. And this issue starts out, we get Ray sitting alone, staring out a window as Enrique come in. And we get a very morose Ray at this point. I mean, we haven't really seen this the last few issues. He's been busy doing, superhero stuff. I mean, every once in a while we'll see, a little peek of it come out, like when he was fighting, what's-his-face, the cheater. My mind turned off. But anyways, I want to say Norm, that's his buddy. Anyways, the guy that cheated on his wife, that ended up being divorced. So every once in a while we see a slip of the warrior, of the sad Ray come out. But here we're getting a full display. Erika comes in, tell me, she was waiting for him to show up, and he's hiding in this dark lab. And he's like, what are you doing here? Growing mushrooms? And turns the light on. She's like, I like to see my guinea pig, And she's thinking to herself, especially you, gorgeous. So do we get started? She's like, Ricky, why are you here? And she told me we made plans. And he's like, you want to test my strength? Fine. And he slammed his fan to the table, breaking it. You see the wood desk just shatter under his fist. And I love here on this first page when Enrique turns the light on and we get a close-up of Ray looking out the window and we see Ray's face reflected in the glass as he's just like, Ricky, why are you here? He's just tired. And he tells her he's tired that, he let his identity get out. I say he let his identity. He revealed his secret identity when he went off to live with Hiawatha. And as he says here, it's only been a couple of months since he's been back. Real time, it's been 18 issues, so that's been a year and a half. Well, 16 issues, just under a year and a half. So we forget that, sometimes it's how time is kind of slippery in the comics, and it's only been a couple of months since he's lost Hiawatha, whatever her name is, I can never pronounce it, and returned to America, and he's done all this, and he's had, people trying to get him to, do things or sign him up for their whatever they're doing, and he's just tired of it all. And again, like I've said this before, he doesn't quite, in quotes, lose it here. He doesn't go like supervillain, but he does get upset and he yells at her, and he realizes after she left, when she leaves, that he shouldn't have. He realizes he's being a jerk. But I've said before, back when I've talked about this, on here or not, but during the whole, when Hal Jordan went bad and became Parallax, I made a comment then when I would talk to people about that, oh, that's unbelievable. I'm like, well, it just kind of shows. It's the same thing that Joker's always said. Well, and I always said on and off, that all it takes is just one bad day to push someone over. I mean, there's one storyline in Batman where the Joker was trying to push Gordon over, and he killed his wife and a bunch of babies, and just trying to push Gordon over the edge. Because again, as he says, it just one bad day can destroy a person. And that's what I said when, Hal Jordan, when, his entire home city was wiped out, he thought maybe his entire family died, and he just lost it, and that's what caused Parallax. So Ray has that to a minor extent here, where he's starting, all the pressure of being a superhero is just weighing down on him. And most superheroes have that. Try that again. Most superheroes have their secret identity they can retreat to. But Ray gave that up. So he's very much flustered at this point. I love the way that is being written here, that how Ray is just on his last straw, if you will, and how it's just, all of this has just gotten to him. It's just wore him down, and he's just snapping at the people that he cares about and that cares about him. So, I mean, Tom Pure, he did a great job conveying Ray's distress, his anger, his just everything at it. And then here at top page 2, we get two panels of Ray once again staring in the mirror. One of Ray, and then one where he switched to his Atom costume. And he's talking here, he's kind of doing his inner monologue about what I was saying, how he used to be able to hide behind a mask, but he gave that up. And it's just some great artwork showing Ray's, like I say, just the reflection of Ray, and just showing how distraught Ray is at how things are going in his life. It's just it's only in a couple of pages. There's no page, there you are. Yeah. Two pages and a panel, a couple panels on the top. But I think we get some very good emotion from Ray. I mean, things about how, every hustler and psychopath knows where to find him at. And, Dr. Kraft got hurt. And here on page 3 is where he says it's only been a couple of months since everyone he loved in the Amazon was killed. And so, again, all this has happened only a couple of months, or a few months. And Ray hasn't had time to get, well, I guess he's had time, but he hasn't gone out and sought any therapy for losing, the love of his life, in quotes, and then his family, his village, his home burnt to the ground, due to some clears, whatever it was, which we'll get more to in this storyline. But it is just fantastic the way it's being written here. And while Ray's pondering all that, Enrique's attacked by two guys. We find out we realize it's the two ex-CIA agents that they think Ray burned them. So they're kidnapping her. And I like here on page 4, where we get the credits, we get the title called Renegades. And again, the Renegades is in the title is kind of reflecting the fire that burnt down Ray's old village where he lived in the South American jungles. And that's taken up most of the page. And we got the credits on the very top. And then below that, we get Enrique fighting these two ex-CIA agents. He's like, hold it, lady. Don't panic. Don't panic. And she's fighting back. She pulls her keys out and gouges one of them. I remember self-defense class. Go for the keys He said, easy, hey, no one's gonna, and then go for his face. She swipes across his face. Shepard, be careful, she's got a knife. Get a grip, will you? They're only keys. Come on, baby, let's go. And they finally grab her and get her to the car. And I like this, they're carting away. The one that got sliced, he's like, his buddy's like, hurry up and grab her, let's get her in the car. You stripe my hand off. He's like, sure, thanks for telling me my name, Fields. And as they're doing this, Ginsburg and I forget her name, it'll tell us in a little bit. One of the other CIA agents are watching these two clowns kidnap Enrique. And they're saying, that's right, Langley, we got a big problem. And like we cut, as they're calling Langley to let him know there's a big problem, someone's kidnapping the Adams friend, we'll leave it at that for now. We see one of the other guys, Agent Stevens, I'd look at his name, looking through a computer. And again, he commented how Bailey was mumbling something about Project Fireball. So he's looking it up to see what Project Fireball is. And as he starts looking, he's like, your second command, basically, why are you concealing this from me? And he's like, if you didn't mutter to yourself, I wouldn't have suspected. And I love here on page 6, as Stevens is looking in the files, he's got sweat pouring off his face. As Bailey comes in, he's like, update your will, Agent Stevens? Mr. Bailey, it's always a wise thing to do, I'm afraid the last person that knows around my files never got around to it. And as Bailey comes over to see what he's looking at, the phone starts ringing. And Stevens like, I'll get it. And he picks, hello? And as he starts says hello, Ray comes flying through the phone. Hope I'm not interrupting, gentlemen. And Stevens is praying, saying, thank you, Lord. And Ray's basically there. And I like Ray standing on top of the monitor talk. Again, this isn't a flat screen monitor like we have nowadays. This is an old school Catharade CRT monitor, a big monitor. And Ray's standing on top of the monitor, as he's telling him, if that the offer of a new identity is open, I'd like to join the CIA. And below him, we can see where it says classified, Project Fireball, which again, we don't know yet what that is, but if you've already read the series, you know what it is, which we'll get to in a little bit. But I do like the juxtaposition there, the two men looking at Ray as he's, saying, I'll accept your offer. I'll join the CIA, give me a new identity, as he's standing on top of basically all the secrets that he doesn't know about, and it would answer a lot of questions that he doesn't know he has yet. So it's just fantastic. It's just a small detail, but I think it's a nice detail. They didn't have to show anything on the monitor, but a blank monitor or whatever, but I do like that little detail. They had it on the monitors. He's standing on top of it. And then we cut back to the two yahoos with the kidnapped Enrique, kind of talking about how, they finally won up the Atom. And like, how many people can say that they're one up on a superhero? Yeah, right. It's Miller time. But before we celebrate, we got some problems to address. Like, now that we grabbed Nagani, Erica, we got to do something with her and fast. And I like, he's like, don't you sound jittery. What's the matter? Afraid the Atom's going to charge in on a frogback and rescue his lady? And as he's saying that, a fly is flying around the car and flies in front of the driver, which is his buddy. He's like, of course not. Don't be. And he swerves and runs into a car on the side of the road, freaking out. What's wrong with you? I thought I saw the Atom. It was a bug, you moron. I know. And he's like, I'm sorry, Fields. I was just thinking the Atom could have pulled onto the highway. And he's like, how do we know the Atom didn't stow away with us? And Phil's like, thanks, Shepard. Now you got me all nervous. Tell you what, let's get out of the state. We'll stop and deal with the woman someplace nice and secluded, if you know what I mean. If you know what I mean. And again, Ginsburg is still following him, reporting into the CIA about what's going on. And as Ray is talking to Bailey and Stevens is trying to get to the computer to hit the delete key to close down what he was looking at, so Bailey doesn't find out that he was investigating Operation Fireball. And Ray said he wasn't sure at first. He got some intel from friends that maybe he shouldn't join. And again, I love this. I say this all the time. We don't see it often enough anymore. We have a reference back to who he's talking about. He's talking about how some friends wanted him not to join the CIA. And we get a little reference here to Hawkman and Hawkwoman in Power of the Atom #4. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's just a little thing, but I love when they reference, and not only just an issue, but the actual issue number. Nowadays, when they do references, a lot of times it's trade paperbacks, which annoys me because you got the floppies. You want to know which issue to look at. But again, that's my personal pet peeve on that, I guess. And as Adam's talking, Steven's able to hit the delete key to close out the file or whatever he's doing, so Bailey doesn't find out what he was looking at. And I like, as they're sitting there talking, the atoms on the desk shrunk down to his 6-inch size. And one of the CIA guys come rushing in. Mr. Bailey, we've got a volatile situation brewing stateside. I have Agent Ginsburg on the line. And Stephen's like, uh-oh. Whatever it is, I'm sure you can handle it, Bill. That's right. See what you can do, report back later. But didn't you guys want constant updates on the Atom surveillance team? And Ray's like, from your what? And I love, here's the bottom page 10, just this extreme close-up of Ray's face with like yellow and black lines behind his head, just showing the anger and just like the rage, like, what? You're what? And then he goes into his 6-foot-tall height. Don't leave, Bill. Let's hear your important news from the Atom surveillance team. I'd like an update too. Sir, I had no idea he was in the room. And Bailey's like, oh, you misunderstand. It's just, routine operation. No, Mr. Bailey, routine is not a word that describes CIA spying on Americans. I think the word you're groping for is illegal. But we have every right to research the activities of potential recruits. That's all we did. And Bill comes, he's like, excuse me, Adam, your friend Miss Nagarni has been abducted by two men. Our people are in close vehicular pursuit and in constant telephone contact. They say she's unharmed for now. And he's kind of upset that not only was Ricky kidnapped, but the way he talked to her the last time he saw her. So, he's blaming himself for that. And he's like, you're going to help me get her back, Bailey. Oh, of course. And they pull up the monitor where they're tracking him at. And he's like, thank you, Stevens. Bailey, your men have a phone in their vehicle? Well, yes, he's like, dial their number. And we cut to the car, the truck, the van they're in. And they're like, what's that? You're kidding, right? Hubbard, get this. Bailey says he's putting Adam on the line. The Adam? He wants to talk to us? And that was the woman's name is Bailey. Or I'm sorry, no, Bailey, Hubbard. Sorry. Bailey's the boss. Hubbard is the woman with him, with Ginsburg. And she's like, the Adam wants to talk to us? And Ginsburg all, you don't think this woman's been spying on him, do you? And as he's saying that, all of a sudden, Adam comes smashing through the phone, much like he did in the first issue when he phoned himself to Norm's house through the cellular system. Same way, he went from a landline to a mobile phone. And again, once again, he exploded out of the phone. This time, he's not stuck at 3 foot high, but like he was there. But again, it takes a bit out of him going through that transition. And again, it breaks the phone. And he tells he's never tried travel by cellular phone before. It's a lot easier than conventional systems. It's a lot easier through conventional systems. And he's like, any easier on conventional phones? As he throws the phone out the window. Very nice here on page 13, just as Adam's getting up to his feet from smashing through the phone, and Ginsburg is holding the broken phone in his hand. And the next page, we just see a distant shot of the car with the phone flying out. And they let him know that Enrique's in the Jeep in front of them. And he's like, forget that. I want you to pass them. What? Just get ahead of them. Directly ahead of them. I'm going to try something stupid. And again, for those that listen to my G.I. Joe podcast, we were doing the G.I. Joe role-playing game. And my character Hardman, I think that turned out to be one of his catchphrases. I think I'm going to do something stupid. In fact, since we've been playing, I haven't done that recently. I need to get back into that. I like that catchphrase. I think Hardman's going to do something stupid. So the van passes the Jeep. Let's get this straight. And Ginsburg in the van. The two guys in the Jeep that have kidnapped Enrique, they realize it's Ginsburg. Oh man, we got the damn company after us again. I hope you're over your jitters, Shepard, because we're gonna see some blood. And here on page 15, we have the Atom shrinking down to slip through the crack of the door and fly out. And again, as he's flying through the air, again, he's caught up in the wind currents a little bit, so he's kind of flying around. And I like this here on the bottom of page 15 as he's flying towards the windshield of the Jeep. And it looks like he's bigger than he actually is, just due to perspective, because we're coming from behind him, and he's flying at the Jeep going, this is nothing compared to radio waves. And he sees that one of the guys in the Jeep has his gun drawn. And there's no time to panic. Windshield's coming up fast. So he shrinks down, like he describes what's going on. So he's not breaking the glass. He's shrinking down small enough to go through the atoms or the molecules of the glass. And then once he gets inside the car, he goes just a little bit big enough to go as like a dust mite almost. And he goes inside of the driver's ear, Shepard's ear. And his buddy's telling hurry up, let's go. And Adam's whispering in Shepard's ear, I wouldn't promise that if I were you. This is the Adam speaking from just inside your right ear. And unless you carefully pull over to the side of the road, I'm going to crawl inside your brain. And it's just like, "Argh! What now?" And Ray's like, tell him, the atom. Him again, what is this time? A mosquito? Get out, Shepard. I'd be better off alone. Like, don't point that thing at me. I'm telling you the truth. And Ray jumps out of his ear and enlarges full size and just clunks their heads together. He's like, do you two always bicker like this? I think you two should get it together. Whap, knocks him out. And he's like, to think you believe I'd set foot in his brain. Disgusting place. And I like that Ray was threatening to go inside his brain, because I used to have a DC role-playing game decades ago, back in the late 80s, early 90s, when I lived with some friends. I think it was the early 90s. And one of my characters was a shapeshifter. He changed into animals, what it was, or creatures or whatever. So he changed into a dust mite, and his thing would go inside someone's ear and turn full size and just explode their heads. He did that a couple of times, tried to put on limitation because he was wiping out too many guys that way. But so yeah, Ray's kind of threatening the same thing here, and I love the way that he's like, if you don't pull over, I'm gonna go inside your brain. He's like, and he jumps back and unties Rike. And as soon as he unties her, he's like, what is he? He says, hold still, I'm an old hand at untying hostages, I'm afraid. Ricky, honey, when I heard what happened, I couldn't stop thinking about the way I treated you. I'm really sorry. And as soon as he ungags her and ties her, like, sweetheart, I thought about you too. I was afraid I'd never see you again. What did you call me? Sweetheart, I think. Or after you called me honey? And all of a sudden they hear a door open and close, and they look over and they see one of the guys running away. And Ray's like, we'll have to do better than that, Ricky. Watch. And he's watching the guy run. He's like, look at him stagger. This is either the stupidest man I've ever encountered or the most frightened. And Ray gets in front of him and grows full size, and he's like, definitely the most frightened. Did you really think I let you walk away? Now, get back in the Jeep before I... And as he grabs his wrist, the guy drops to the ground, screams like, listen, if you turn me in, they'll kill me. Let me lose, like, make it worth your while. And Ray's like, I don't need your money. I don't want your money. Not money, information about the company, about you. And again, here on the bottom of page 19, just a close-up of Ray's face with the moon, this night sky and the moon behind him. You're CIA? You know I am. You. Blam. Because again, these two yokels think that Ray is the one that ratted him out, that caused him to send him to that hotel or whatever it was, that Rendell Motel in Utah, wherever it was, so many issues ago. So they don't realize it wasn't Ray. I forget who it was now. I forget, was it Humbug? I forget now. But it wasn't Ray. So they think it's Ray knows that they're the CIA and was trying to get rid of him. But so again, they're kidnapping Enrique. They're pissed off at Ray for the wrong reasons, which is kind of funny. And as he's questioning him, someone takes a shot at him. Blam! And we see Ginsburg has a rifle, and he saw that the guy was spilling his guts. And his partner's like, how'd you know? Well, sure didn't look like they were talking about baseball now, did it? Uh-oh. Doesn't look like I'm going to get another shot. And Ray comes running up. What in the world do you think you're doing? You better throw down that weapon, and all of a sudden they take off. And I know you're trying to catch them. Not today, anyways. And he goes back over to the guy, and he's like, you believe me? I'm as good as dead. And Ray's like, just talk. What don't they want me to know? You're going to protect me, right? Wrong, kidnapper. I just did. Now you owe me. No, the information is all I got to trade. You're my only hope, Obi-Wan. You're my only hope. I got to have your guarantee. And Ray takes over the Jeep and slams against the side. All right, wham. I guarantee more of this until you tell me what I want to know. Because again, as we've talked about previously, Ray is usually a goody-goody two-shoe superhero. He does what's right. He plays within the rules. But then he lives some time out in the jungles, and he learned to be more of a warrior and to do what he needs to do. And he tries not to live that way now that he's back in quotes, modern society. Though I think sometimes modern society is worse than the jungles, but that's another story entirely. So yeah, but every once in a while that jungle Ray, if you will, comes seeping out, and we see, like times like this where he's pissed off at these guys for kidnapping his friend / girlfriend / whatever she is. And he's like, yeah, I promise you I'll give you more of this if you don't talk. Okay, I'll talk. Those little people you lived with in the jungle? And his buddy leans out the truck. Shepard, don't tell him a thing. You hear me? Not a thing. And Shepard's like, the company had him killed. And just, again, here on page 21, just some fantastic artwork in this. I mean, it's always got fantastic artwork, but even more so, some very dramatic and very, very heart-wrenching artwork in this book. Just a close-up of Ray's face as he hears that the company, the CIA, the United States government, had his Liliuoth and her people killed. and just that look of shock on his face. And then we cut to see the blazing forest, blazing fires, the fire. He's going, my people. And the CIA guy keeps going on, who was a shepherd. He's like, it was Bailey. He paid some Brazilian deforesters to burn him out. They called it Project Fireball. Which, again, I told you we'd come back to Project Fireball. And just, we can't see it. They're in shadows. It's a bit of a distant shot. Shepard's kind of sliding down the side of the truck, and Ray's just standing there at his full 6-foot height in his Atom costume, just kind of looking to the sky. And just from the way they're drawing little line motions around his head and his hands, you can tell this is just killing him to hear what's going on. And the last panel on this page, we see a close-up of Hiawatha. She fires all around. He's like, my princess. Just some fantastic artwork on this. And then the next page, we got the state police are loading the 2 XCI agents in the back of the car. And Ray's just sitting Indian style, crisscross applesauce, I guess is the more modern phrase for that, not to offend our Native American friends, but he's sitting crisscross applesauce in the middle of the road. Ray, I'm sorry, Ray. I guess my timing could be better, huh? Just do us a favor. Forget what I said before. I mean, you got enough to think about. I realize that. Ray, are you listening to me? And just here on the bottom of page 22, second to the last panel, we get a close-up of Ray, and we see fire in his eyes as he's in the next page down, the last panel here. We see he's thinking about Hiawatha and the fire, and she's in shadows while the fire's raging around her. He's like, Ricky, save your sympathy for the CIA. I'm going after them, Ricky. Every last one of them. And then we get the next title, next month blurb, next month, Sword of the Atom, which kind of throwback to the original miniseries that I started with for this section of the Atom. So very nice. Again, as I said, some fantastic artwork in here. I love the artwork. I love the writing in this. The very heartfelt and very string pulling, heart of the string, whatever, pulling the heartstrings of Ray finding out that, you know, the American government was behind the death of his wife or whatever she was, girlfriend, lady friend, and all the other people in the jungle. And it just some fantastic artwork to back up the fantastic writing. It's wonderful. But that's where this issue ends. I love this, and it was just fantastic. And as I talked about previously, we're going to move on directly into issue 17. This one here has got the Atom. He's in the Sword of the Atom costume with a sword, and there's a bunch of bees attacking him. Title says Swarmed. Great cover. Again, it's when I think of the Atom, this is one that comes to mind. I remember the Atom facing off against all these bees. This is the second to the last issue of the series. It's a good cover. I really, not quite great, but better than good. So if I was rating on my G.I. Joe show of 1 to 5, I would probably give it 3.5, maybe 4. On there, it's Yojo Colas. Here, we'll give it 3.5 or 4 swords. There you go. Again, pulling the random, or not random, but the rating scale on something weird from the issue. Or not necessarily weird, but something from the issue. I pulled that from the Quantum Leap podcast. Not my podcast, but there's actual Quantum Leap podcast. A friend of mine, online friend, I used to listen to his show, and we became friends online. Albie is his name. He does that on his show. He, a lot of times they rate it on 1 to 5 and some random object from the episode they were talking about. So anyways, I'm getting lost here off track. So it's a good cover. I enjoy it. Moving on, we get Bailey shoving documents in a briefcase. Faster, he's coming. I'm forgetting something. I know it. And Stevens comes in. He's like, uh-oh. He's muttering to himself again. What is it this time? Stevens, get in here. Call Hubbard and Ginsburg. I want to see them at the Hive within the hour. Is something wrong, sir? We're facing a grave threat to national security. That's all you have to know. Just make sure nobody learns where I went. Do you read me? No, Betty. Now run these to the shredder. No, make the calls first. Understand? Yes, sir. And as he's talking to some cowboy, Black Snake, I think he showed up previously, if I'm not mistaken. I forget now. Comes walking in. He's like, now you just buck it up, boss. We faced some tough scrapes in our days. Remember Chili? You don't work against Black Snake? I wish I did. Let's move. And as he leaves, Steven's like, national security, my eye. Sounds like he's more worried about his own security as the door slams and leaves him alone in the office. So he's like, hey, I got time. He probably didn't delete everything in the rush he's in. Let me see if I can find out about this Operation Fire or Project Fire. He wants the Operation Project Fireball. And again, I love here on the bottom of page 3, just the horrified look on Stephen's face as he starts reading. And basically, it's just a text portion overlaid with photos or pictures telling me how Ray Palmer's been an CIA asset in the past, and his involvement was a boon to national security. His potential as a shrinking agent was largely unexploited. Current reports places him in the Amazon jungle, isolated with a tribe of aliens his own size. Like here, we see some pictures of Ray from that time period. The picture, not necessarily pictures, it's flashback images, I guess. It's in a yellowish, orangish colors. And we see him on a frog leading some of the warriors. We see him holding the princess. And then we see the place burning. People look around in terror. And then here we have Ray standing amongst, the smoke and the skeletons of his old people, I guess you can say. And basically saying how that they're going to burn down his home to force him back to modern society. And with nothing left to lose, he'll be ripe for recruitment. So he's finding out that his boss is one of the worst human beings on Earth. I mean, this guy killed, I don't know how many aliens there were in that city, but he killed them all just to get Ray back and to get him recruited as a CIA asset. And as he's, my God, who knows about this? How far up does it? About this time, Black Snake walks in. If you're looking for the file was sent back to fetch, you're in some mighty deep trouble, mister. Yep, looks like that's the one, all right. Keep them hands on the air, Stevens. I might just pop off and drill you one. And he's holding a 3 1/4 floppy inch disc in his hand, which kids nowadays probably don't know what that is. If you look on anything when you go to save it, there's that little picture of that little disc thing. That's what he's holding, the actual one of those. Again, looking back from 2024 to 1980s, 1990s technology is just funny. And again, if this had been a year or two before this, it might have been a 5 1/4 inch floppy, which is the bigger ones. It's truly a floppy disk, not these hard disc like he has. But again, as we cut back on page 5, we cut back to Ray as he's working on some sort of weapon, a laser weapon it looks like. And he's thinking about how Bailey's probably halfway to Florida, but the this miniature blaster should enliven our encounter when we do meet again. What will he say to me? I wonder if he'll beg for his life. Bailey's victims didn't get that chance. They were small and vulnerable. He made them pay for it with their lives. And we show him hitting the laser, zap. So I must remember to thank him. Until he came along, I had no idea I could do this. And as he's working, Norm comes in and starts, hey, Ray, what's going on, buddy? How about bothering you? I just want to check up on you. And he's talking. Ray's just ignoring him the entire time, working on his laser. And he's saying, we're going after the CIA. It's the government. They're bigger than you are. They're more powerful than you are. You need to think twice about doing this. And Ray's just completely ignoring him. Whether he's ignoring him or just not aware of his presence because he's so wrapped up in what he's doing, I'm not quite sure. But yeah, Ray's just hard at work on that laser. And Norm's like, yeah, I can see you're glad I stopped by. Hey, did I mention I saw Ricky? She's pretty broken up. She's crazy about you, Ray, and humiliated. She told me to tell you she doesn't want to burden you, especially right now. Why don't you go talk to her? It'd be an awful lot, Ray. Ray? And he's annoyed that Ray's ignoring him as he walks off. You son of a... I love this here as he gets real annoyed at Ray for ignoring him as he storms off and bumps into Professor Hyatt, knocking the old guy to the ground. And he lets him know he's distracted by Ray, that Ray's, so infuriating. And I like this. He's like, how ridiculous. I can't imagine level-headed Raymond driving anyone to distraction. Surely it's the other way around. And he walks in as Ray's got his sword out, looking at it, dressed in his old Sword of the Atom costume. And he's like, you've come to cram advice down my throat, Professor. You're wasting your time. I know what I've got to do. Norm doesn't, and you don't. And just this look of anger and just disgust on Ray's face as he's holding his sword looking at it. And again, Professor Hyatt's completely in the dark. He doesn't know anything about what's going on. He's been out of the loop. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Good, then you might be of some use. I just want to check on some results. It won't take long. Here, leave this line open as he hands him a phone. I may need a quick escape route. And he's like, of all the high-minded... Did he say escape route? Why would he need a... Oh, dear, and he's sitting there thinking, he's like, he didn't say how long he'd be gone. I don't think he'd know. He didn't say how long he'd be gone. What if he doesn't come back? Well, something terrible happens. And he's like, but what do I do if nature calls? And he's sitting holding the phone like, what's going on? I don't know what's going on here. And all of a sudden, Ray comes flying. I love this image here on page 8, the bottom panel. A close-up of Professor Hyatt's face holding the phone. And Ray comes flying out of the phone with the sword raised. Kind of like in a Superman pose, but Superman with a sword. And he's like, well, did everything transpire as you'd hope? Nobody home. Oh, well, I presume it was rather urgent business. And Ray grabs a gas can. He heads outside and picks up his desk from last issue that he shattered. And he takes it outside and he starts crushing it down. And here on page 9, just another excellent panel of Ray destroying that desk as Professor Hyatt stands behind him holding the gas can he had a few moments ago. And he basically says that, tradition demands fire, that, his people had customs and not religions necessarily, but they had customs and rights and things. And I like here on page 10, page 10, Ray sitting again, crisscross applesauce, his hands clasped in front of him, just like a very meditative or prayer stance, talking about how, the close on their culture they had as survivors and this genocide you dealt with, it must be done their way. That's what it's all about? Someone wiped out your village deliberately? That's where you phoned yourself to? Yes, to the killers, but they were gone. I was too late. So Hiawatha still burns. And here on page 10, we get a raise in the background, and in front of them is a fire image of Hiawatha. Just some great images and great throwbacks to Ray's time in the jungle. I love it. Fantastic. And then we cut to Enrica again, kind of in her robe, just thinking about Ray and how she wishes they could do things differently, back the way it was. And she's kind of just thinking about how she cares for Ray and how she wishes things basically were different between them. And she opens the door, she's like, Ray? And someone rings the doorbell and come on, it's Norm. Not Ray. I'm afraid it's only me. Oh, no, Norm, come in. I'm sorry, please. I'm not very good company today. Yeah, you don't have to worry about it, What are you reading? One of mine, I hope? And he picks up, and here she has a stack of trashy romance novels there. And he's like, what is this? Romantic interlude? I don't remember writing that. Say, these are all romances. Kind of just kidding around with her, but she's, again, not in the mood. So she just goes off on him. She's like, give me that. I guess my secret's out, right? The repressed scientist has a fantasy love life. That explains how I can make a fool of myself, doesn't it, Norm? As she throws the book across the room, knocking over a lamp. She's crying. Of all the times to make a pass at Ray, I picked the night he finds out who murdered his lover. He's still mourning her, Norm. How could I have forgotten that? And basically, Norm tells her, we've all forgotten. Because again, like I said, earlier, it's only been several months. In real time, it's been a year and a half for us, or almost a year and a half. But yeah, Ray, it's only been a couple of months. But Ray doesn't normally act saddened by the loss. Again, he hides it all under his superhero bluster and his superhero antics. And as Norm tells her, he hides it pretty well. Unless you know what you're looking for, everyone can miss it. And again, he's like, there's, all you did was offer your love. Nobody should be ashamed of that. And offering a ratty old hanky Kleenex to a beautiful woman, that's to be ashamed of. As he answers Kleenex. And he's like, not funny, I know. He kind of helps to rise her eyes. He's like, look here, Ricky, you didn't do anything wrong. In fact, what you did was almost exactly right. You just picked the wrong guy. And just the realization on page 12 of Enrique realizing that Norm likes her like that. Because again, she's a beautiful woman. So it's no surprise that, Norm has a hots for her. But so she's just now realizing that. And we cut to the Potomac, Maryland, home of some rich, secluded guy on a big estate. And apparently this guy's name is Ronald Sweets, who goes by the name of, I pulled a note up here to remind me of that. Here we are, the Sting, as they swarm, but it's a different guy. The Sting, who, this is his first appearance, it looks like. He's a redo of an old character called the Bug-Eyed Bandit that Ray used to fight. He's going to take the guy's costume and gimmick, and he's kind of updated it to a more modern, more, 90s, early 90s look before the grim and gritty set in. And this is the hive that Bailey was talking about earlier. And as I said, this is the first appearance of the how's he called, the Bug-Eyed Bandit, of the Sting. And he talks about in this story how he's an updated version of the Bug-Eyed Bandit. I was looking real quick. Bug-Eyed Bandit first appeared in the Atom number 26 back in 1966, who was created by Gardner Fox and Gil Kane. And apparently, just looking here real quick, I know I've seen the name the Bug-Eyed Bandit, but I'm not sure if I've actually read any of his stories. But apparently, during the Crisis on Infinite Earths. The Bug-Eye Bandit is one of the guys that was killed off. So apparently he died back during the Crisis. And I'm reading here on Wikipedia, Marv Wolfman, the writer of the Crisis on Infinite Earths, he says that Marv Wolfman has gone on record saying that he killed off both the original Bug-Eye Bandit and the Ten-Eyed Man because, in quotes, he couldn't be a part of a company that would print them. So that he died then. So this is the revamp of him. And apparently in an Animal Man story by Grant Morrison called Deuce Machina, whatever, Psycho Pirate recreates him from and other characters. And again, I plan on talking about that version of Animal Man at some point in the future, either on this show or its own show. I haven't decided yet. And then apparently we get a flashback covering his death in Batman's Villain Secret Files and Origins 2005. And apparently at some point he was identified as one of the deceased entombed below the Halls of Justice. He is a revived member of the Black Lantern Corps during the Black Lantern storyline. And then there was a second Bug-Eye Bandit, was the son of him, apparently. He was in Adventures of Superman, but he first appeared back in Justice League of America number 43, 1990, where he appeared, even though the original was supposed to be dead this time. The current one's the son of the original Bug-Eye Bandit, but he's not very successful. And then he appeared in Villains United and Infinite Crisis as a member of Alexander Luthor Jr. Society. His current whereabouts are unknown. And the Bug-Eye Bandit, he's proficient in the field of robotics and microcircuitry, and he uses talent to create a horde of small robotic insects. And they had a female version of Bug-Eye Bandit called Brie Larvin, where the original name was Bertram Larvin, appear in the TV series, I think it was Arrow. Or no, The Flash. She appeared in The Flash as a female version of it. So, but again, that's a character that's not in the story. We're talking about the Sting. Like I say, this is his first appearance. He appears here in these issues. And then next time he appears is over in Suicide Squad number 61, which I'll be getting to shortly over on Task Force X. And then apparently also appeared in the Secret Six, a couple of those books. But yeah, so this is his first appearance, but I'm getting off track. But again, he's got the same gimmick. He's got a bunch of robotic bees that he controls that's wandering around his house. And he sends Ginsburg with Stevens upstairs. Apparently he's got a, what does he call it? The holding suite. Upstairs, third door on the left. And as Ginsburg's leading him away, he's like, "You hear that, traitor? You get a suite." And Bug-Eye Bandits, Sting is like, "So what's up, Stevens? Did you catch him swiping coffee supplies again?" Forget Stevens. He's the least of our problems. If Palmer finds us here, I'll deal with him. That's what I've been preparing for, right? He's like, "I'm telling you, there's a lot more powerful than you used to be. Are you prepared to deal with that?" And Sting's watching Bailey is pouring down another bottle of alcohol, and he's like, "I don't know, Bailey, but you sure the hell aren't." And as reverse that. Ginsburg's taking Steven upstairs. Steven, he kicks back and kicks Ginsburg and throws him over the balcony or over the railing of the stairs. Grabs a phone and runs to a bedroom and shuts the door. He's like, "A phone. Looks like Cora reached that room. I may survive this yet if a certain party answers this phone." And he says this. We cut over to the Ray's place, or actually I guess it's Professor Hyatt's place. And we see his phone ring, and outside we see Hyatt and Ray standing over the fire that Ray had built last issue. And then we cut back to the mansion where Black Snake sees Ginsburg laying on the floor unconscious, and Stevens is like, "Come on, answer, damn it." And as he waiting for we're cutting back and forth between him waiting for someone to pick up the phone and Hyatt come walking in the house. An old man's walking slow. "I'm coming, I'll be right there." And meanwhile, Black Snake's outside the door, pounding on the door. Look at that phone cord underneath. He might as well have a sign saying, "Come get me." He's banging on the door. He starts shooting at the door. And again, if he had been smart, all he had to do was grab the cord and pull it and maybe unplug the phone. But again, villains aren't known for being smart most times, so at least as far as common sense wise. He shoots in the door to open it, and Hyatt's like, "Raymond, it sounds like gunshots. Come quickly, please." And again, we get Ray in the background shrinking down, and we go back, and apparently the phone's answered. He's like, "Hello? Is anyone there? Answer me. Having personal calls on company time, partner? Might as well give it up, because that phone ain't going to save you, boy." As he cracks his whip at Stevens, knocking the phone out of his hand, as Ray comes flying through the phone. "I know what's going on here, but if someone's shooting, that's what I'm going after." And he knocks into the gun, knocks it out of Black Snake's hand. "Want termination? Something shot the gun right out of my hand. The Atom. Did we talk, or do you want to show me where the... Do we talk, or do you want to show me what a big man you are without your weapon? He's like, I don't need my shooting iron to take the likes of you. The day CIA can't whomp a superhero is the day I hang up my spurs. And Ray's like, CIA, that's the worst thing he could have said at this moment, as the whip wraps around Ray. And again, anyone that knows Ray knows that he can control, especially at this point without having to use his belt, he can control his weight and height and all that. So he puts his full weight into his little body and just pulls Black Snake into a mirror. He's like, CIA, crash. Just bust. It's hilarious seeing him fly into the mirror. And apparently the Sting has bees keep a monitor. There's something that noticed that someone's infiltrated the house. Now, he better not tell Bailey, not the shape he's in. And again, Bailey's just sitting there drunk as a skunk, just, I don't know, sweet superheroes used to be such Boy Scouts. Not take Palmer. He was one. Then he went native in the Amazon. Killing was way of life there. They had to affect him. Pour me another scotch, will you? I bet he'd kill me without thinking. And Sting's like, I'll go get that. I'll go get a new bottle. And so as he goes running to confront Ray, or the Atom, he's got a swarm of bees with him. Come on, drones. If our guess is the Atom, you're about to do the job you were built for. And so we cut to Ray. And again, here on bottom page 17, we get Black Snake laying on a dresser with a mirror on it. Mom used to have one like that. The mirror's shattered as Black Snake's laying on top of the dresser. And Ray's like, you mean to tell me you're Bailey's executive assistant and you just learned of his crimes? I brought you here, didn't I? If you think it's a trap, then leave. But if you want the people who burned your village, they're right here. He's like, by the way, you're not really the sword, art. Shh, listen, that buzzing sound. Coming out, and the bees come flying in, shooting beams at him. And he's like, I've been waiting for something to cut. As he slices in, we see it's microcircuits. We see now that these are electronic or mechanical bees. And he's like, only one man I know uses a robotic insect, and he's dead, isn't he? And at this point, the Sting comes running in. He's like, reminds you of Burt Lartham, doesn't it, Adam? What was he called himself? The Bug-Eyed Bandit, I think? What a loser. But his toys were more clever than his name. And our people have improved on both. Come on, let's see how many drones you can cut with that little sandwich pick. And Ray's like, no need. And apparently he's blasts the bees with his weapon, his laser. And Sting's like, you vaporized them. I didn't know you could. As he just jumps into the Sting and knocks him down. Stick your swarm on me again, and I'll shrink into one of your pores and then blast you instead. By the way, I think you should know, I never beat Larvin this easily. And Sting's like, he's like, you scum. I didn't mean that. Look, I got an idea. Just this goofy grin on his face. Goofy, not grin, but goofy look on his face. Like, I've got an idea. Why don't I just tell you where Bailey is? And again, Bailey's standing next to the fireplace drinking. 30 damn years in public service, 11 with the company. Now it's all going right down the toilet. And how the hell? And all I can do is stand around boozing? Who am I counting on to protect me? As he throws his glass, wastes a perfectly good alcohol. As I sit here recording this, drinking my own alcohol. Who am I counting on to protect me? A cowboy? A hippie? A woman? And a guy that dresses like a bug? And as he's ranting about who he's got protecting him, we see Ray watching him from a vent with a sword in hand. And he's like, if I'm going to live through this, I'm going to have to count on myself. Yes, sir. I got a gun here someplace. Let me see. In the briefcase. You count on yourself in this life. Yes, sir. That way you know what's going on. That way there's no surprises. And as he reaches for his briefcase, it pops open. Ray jumps out. Bailey! Ah! Just a great panel here on page 10. Sorry, try that again. A great panel here on page 20 of Ray leaping out of the briefcase and socking Bailey as Bailey goes falling to the floor. Palmer, stay back. Do you hear me? I'm an important man. If anything happens to me... Ray's like, he's just disgusted. He's like, you're drunk. I'm disappointed. See, if you're drunk, then this won't hurt as much. As he pulls his sword. No, please, I'm begging you. Not good enough. You owe me a debt, Bailey. A debt of blood. Where I come from, debts among warriors are paid with steel. But you're not a warrior, are you? No. As he throws the sword aside and pulls out that laser weapon he had earlier. You're just a frightened little man. He zaps him, just zap, and just he's highlighting a glowing light. And as, I forget her name, the woman that was chasing after Ray earlier was surveilling him. She said, you killed him! You killed him! No! No! And this is the next issue, and with this maniacal grin on Ray's face as he turns to look at her. It's a neat picture, And again, under circumstances, I could see I don't normally like that look on Ray because Ray, that's not Ray. But right now is a bit of a different story. Again, he's just finding out the CIA killed his family, his life, if you will. It's put him on, again, as I talked about earlier, it's just one bad day can push you over to supervillain territory. And from the looks of this, Ray's right on the edge. And the next issue panel tells us that Adam, a killer. The verdict comes down next month in a last nerve-chilling, last issue chiller we nearly called Ray Palmer Must Die. Again, fantastic issue. Great art. I love where they're going with it. The only thing I don't like is I know the issue is ending next month. The next issue is the last issue, but great storyline. Fantastic. And I don't talk much about the letters page because there isn't much in here, but there is one letter from a Robert Kutzt in Mountain View, California. Or as I mentioned, I used to date a gal from Mountain View. So, you know, at the time I didn't know of Mountain View, but later in life I did. So just want to throw that out there. And one of the letters from a Mark Billion in Malvern, Pennsylvania. I guess he's complaining about the corner guy. What's he saying about it? He's all... He says, the only thing that cut the cover from being perfect was that little Adam figure on the DC Bullet. This may remind some DC fans of the good old days, but it annoys me on no end. I dislike it here as much as like on the Flash and Superman titles. Please get rid of it. And their answer is like, well, sorry you don't like the corner guy, Mark. We guarantee that after next issue, there won't be a corner guy on the Power Atom for a long time. But you should get used to seeing the corner guys, because not only are they not going away, but before long, you'll be seeing them a whole lot more. And again, this goes to explain why there's a little corner guy up in the top corner, and it's basically to help identify their magazines on crowded newsstands. In many places, the only exposure the racks get is that 1-inch small square or 1-inch wide area along the side. And with the characters up there, well, the most people will be able to identify the books they're looking for. And again, I know Marvel did this too. They had corner people up in the top left-hand corner of their magazines, and apparently I'm assuming for the same reason. When it's on the newsstand, you can see the little corner guy and you know which book you're looking for. So, fantastic. Great book. And again, they're talking about here, they're letting us know that the book's canceled. Well, there are going to be new team-ups in these pages in the near future, but that could be popping up anywhere in the DC universe. We'd beware of ringing telephones. So again, this is the second to the last issue. Fantastic. I enjoyed the artwork. I enjoyed the storyline. Sadly, we're going to move on to the last issue, issue 18. Again, we have a picture of the Atom standing with a blood-soaked sword, fire behind him. He's crouched over, a look of anger on his face. The bottom says, the end. This one doesn't have the corner guy, as the last guy was complaining about. In fact, there's the bubble there that he normally in, the Atom bubble he's in, but it's kind of pooped out. So, or popped out, poofed out, whatever. It's poofing like it's gone, which sadly, the Atom's the ending. Oh, but this is a great cover. This here is a solid 5 out of 5, maybe a 5.5. It's a great cover. Just a great image of Ray. I would love to have this as a poster blown up hanging here in Manland. In fact, I may have to see about getting this blown up a little bit and getting it printed out as a poster, because now you can do that. Thanks to my good buddy Kevin Reitzel over my G.I. Joe show. He sent me a picture of the pit blowout from one of the comics he had pulled out and blown up a little bit. And it's not poster size, but it's larger than life. So I'm going to have to do that for this cover. It's fantastic. Beautiful cover for the ending of a great book. A moment of silence, please. Oh, well, it was not done yet. So again, we cut back to start out in Ivytown, New York, where Hyatt and Norm are kind of discussing what's going on. Apparently, Ray's disappeared. They've heard about 5 CIA agents disappearing, and they say he's been gone for 10 days, and they don't know what's happened to him. They haven't heard from him. So this is apparently 10 days after the last page of the last issue. And Norm comments how every time the phone rings, he thinks he can flying out of the receiver. He's like, well, you damned if I can concentrate anything else. About that time, the phone rings, and both of them look at the phone. And Norm's like, know what I mean? I'm beginning to. As the phone's ringing, and they pick it up. And it's apparently someone calling for a taxi. No, this isn't Ivytown all-night taxi. No, I will not come pick you up anyway. Madam, your slurred obscenities betrays a blood alcohol level in excess of... What's that? Why, never. He slams the phone down. You can't do that anymore. Slam a phone down. And as he does that, they hear a thunk from the other room. And here at the bottom of page 2, there's a nice image of Ray standing in the dark shadows all over him. He's like, blast, why it's still up? I didn't want a confrontation. And they're like, who's that? And we cut to the next page where it says life after death. And we have Ray, and he's not been shaved in a little while. He's got fuzz going on his face, some whiskers growing in. He's like, hello, Professor Norm. He's like, where have you been? And Norm's like, well, more to the point, what have you been doing? And I like the title, or not the title, the credits are written on the tabletop. Very nice way of doing it. I like the way they do these sometimes. And Ray, again, this angry look on Ray's face where he's like, I made my feelings known to the CIA, if that's what you mean. Other than that, not much. I've been lying low. He's like, you've had us worried sick, and that's all you can say? And Ray's like, the rest isn't here. And Norm's like, the book? You worked on it? I said I would. Now, if you excuse me, I have to pack. And as Norm looks at the book, the professor wanders off. Oh, this is so wonderful. I got to tell Ricky the good news. And Norm's like, I'd hold off on that, Professor. I mean, does he seem right to you? And he's like, of course, he seems right. He always does. Come on, Professor. He wanted to duck us. And after all that worry he's caused, something's up. So they sit down to read the manuscript, hoping maybe that'll tell him. And we get a kind of a recap of Ray's life. He talks about how his early days at the Atom, it's like reflecting on his childhood. I was dashing, incorruptible. The bad guys were just familiar, always easy to spot. He talks about how he played heroic fantasies just as surely as he had in the playground and vacant lots of my boyhood. And yeah, I love the dialogue as he's writing the story here. Very prose-worthy and just fantastic written as we're reading the final book that Ray was writing, or the next book Ray was writing for Norm. He talked about how he looked to Jean for the love. He knew she could hold on to him forever. We married. We divorced. Aching, I fled to the Amazon to live among a tribe of shrunken aliens. I burned my bridges, strapped myself at 6 inches in height, told the world my secret identity. It was madness. I thought I was forging a brave new life. In truth, I rebuilt the same old childhood. I became a hero to the people, a leading man to their princess. Hiawatha dazzled me. She was savage and tender, independent and trusting. She truly believed I could handle any threat the jungle held in store. But then, Hiawatha never heard of the CIA. And I love we get some recaps and some pictures of Ray's life. We see the little city. We see him kissing Hiawatha, holding onto a bird that he was flying. Then we see him flying above the city, or getting ready to fly away on the bird with Hiawatha looking at him, watching as he flies away. In the last panel on this page, we see the city just burning. And then he continues the story, talking about how he seems it was an administrator named Bailey, coveted my service for the war against commies. Fearing I would never abandon my village, he burned it down. Hiawatha died. Everyone died. The truth came out eventually. Bailey and his cronies hid from me at a secluded Maryland estate. Sickened by their genocide, one of their own agents, Kevin Stevens, led me to them. The killers had prepared a surprise for me, but I had one for them. I came armed. My blaster dispatched a horde of robotic insects, while my sword sufficed to scare their maker, a masked man who called himself the Sting. He was only too glad to direct me to Bailey. Bailey the murderer. Bailey the weakling. And again, so we're getting recaps of last issue where he's blasting the Wasp, holding Sting at sword point, where he's busting out the briefcase at Bailey. He's like, he reeked of whiskey. I recoiled from the smell as I slid my blade behind the fat fold under his throat. There'd be no ritual vengeance. That was not a warrior. That was for warriors, not sobbing drunks. He whimpered gratefully when I discarded my sword and stiffened in panic as I fired my blaster. And again, we got close up with the blast just blasting, and we cut Norm's like, what the hell? He's like, hey, you better read this. Read over. Tell me, maybe I got it wrong. It wasn't over yet. I had a witness. And we cut back to Hubbard, the woman that was part of this whole thing. She said, you killed him. I recognized her. An agent named Hubbard, who had already implicated herself in the cover-up. My blaster quieted her. It showed him blasting her. My lord, this is either some sick revenge fantasy or she's ahead a few pages. There must be an explanation. And so you skip ahead a little bit. He's like, I found Hubbard's partner, Ginsburg, barely conscious in the hall. Looked like Stevens had gotten to him, but Stevens hadn't done enough. As we see Stevens getting up, holding his head, as we see Ray come behind him with his laser. And both men are kind of just throwing the page as they're reading through the page. Like, what the hell? I can't believe it. Bailey, Hubbard, Ginsburg, Sting. I picked them off one by one. It all went smoothly until I cornered Blacksnake. That's when Stevens got in the act. Put the weapon down, Adam, or so help me, I'll shoot. Stevens must have decided Blacksnake's life as an assassin was worth something. I disagreed. As he just socks Stevens, knocking him down, and then he blasts Blacksnake, wiping him out. He's like, I disagreed. I won the argument. And Ray comes out, how does it read? And both men on the couch like, what the? I think I did okay, but you're the pro, Norm. Rewrite however you want. Anyway, I better be going. He's like, what's the rush? You just got here. Afraid we'll give the cops your manuscript? Too scared to stick around and explain what you did to those agents? Get out of my way, Norm. I'm leaving. Right? Norm's trying to stop him because, again, he thinks at this point Ray's a murderer. And as he tries to swing at Ray again, Ray shrinks down enough to grab Norm's foot and throw him onto the table, breaking it. And he's like, you can't stop me, Norm. And I can't stay now. On your feet, come on. And he's like, all right, sulk it. Suit your temperament. Sit down, Professor. And Norm's on the ground. He's like, wait, I've got to know. Did you really kill all those people? And he's like, what? Oh, you didn't read the whole thing, did you? That's what this is about. I guess I do owe you an apology. How far did you get, Professor? And he's like, I think you just shot, I think it was Blacksnake after you did something to Stevens. And he's like, I'll take you through the rest of it. All I did with Stevens was knock him down. He got right up. I could feel his eyes blazing through me before I even turned to face him. They burned like yours do now, Norm, with anger, with disappointment. I didn't care. He gasped. I drew my scabbard. I don't know what he expected, but it wasn't this. Squinting, I saw faces, twisted anger. Cocking my head, I strained to decipher thin, high-pitched drones of rage. And here on page 13, we see him dumping the 5 people he shot onto the desk out of a scabbard. He shrunk them down to 6 inches or less in height and had him in a scabbard. And he's like, I managed a straight face. Go over here, Stevens. I want you to see something. What do you think? They're alive, but I like this. Here at the bottom of page 13, both Stevens and Norm's like, they're alive, but I thought, oh, my stars, Norm, I think we owe Ray a rather massive apology. And Ray's like, skip it, Professor. I've handed out enough blame in the last few weeks to last a lifetime. Indeed, I could hear the bitterness fade from my voice. I lectured my victims. Hiawathan tradition demands that I take your lives. Just you took mine back in the Amazon. I think my reducing blasters accomplished that neatly, don't you think? Now here's the best part. It's powered by the same white dwarf fragment that shrank the Hiawathans of Ifu to Earth. Small world, right? I chose the fragment for its relatively stability. It won't blow your clothes up. But there's one tiny flaw, though. If left intact, this blaster will automatically restore your lost mass. Of course, you may not consider that a problem, but I do, as he just crushes the device in front of him. And we can't hear what they're saying, but they're sitting there, Bailey, who's the smallest of them, is just like, good luck reassembling it. In the meantime, hope the world treats you better than you treated my tribe. He's like, I'm leaving this crew in your care, Stevens. Try not to spill them. And Stevens like, Adam, this isn't the end. As justifiable as this is, I don't think the company is going to let it slide. You can't fight them all of us, forever. But I think we have enough leverage for a deal. He's like, what, you mean we keep quiet about these people did in exchange for my skin? Thanks, but that's out of the question. Actually, there's one more thing you can do for me. Do you happen to know the director's private phone number? Well, yeah. He's like, I'm just going to, he's picking up the phone to call him. He's like, I'm just going to talk to him. And we find out that apparently Ray told him everything that happened, and apparently he was appalled at what Bailey had done. And he's like, and I told him what I'd done. You know what? He thanked me. The old buzzard thanked me. Now he has miniature spies. That's all he ever wanted in the first place. I told him he better keep them in line. I told him they better keep them in line. So I look, sorry if I gave you the wrong idea. Again, not much of a writer. And we're like, no, actually, it was good, really. Are you coming back? I've been rehearsing this moment for days. I figured out quickly, to avoid the scene. You're not going to get away with it, are you? Basically, he's just saying his goodbyes to him. Norm's got tears in his eyes. One of his best friends is leaving. Maybe for good, we don't know. And Ray's basically saying he's going to try to leave, find somewhere they never heard of Ray Palmer, and never will. He'll get another name, another face if need be. And he's like, I don't want to be alone. I just will be. And Norm's like, not while I'm alive, buddy. Not while I'm alive. And again, it's just very... I love the way it's written. It's very heartfelt, very, almost brings a tear to your eye. Seeing these two friends leaving, Ray's just aggravated with everything. He finds out the CIA killed his family in the Amazon jungles. And he's just like, you know what? I'm out of here. I'm going to go find somewhere I can be myself. Not a superhero, not, Ray Palmer. No one's ever heard of me. I'll do what I need to do. And he says his goodbyes, and Norm's like, well, if you're going to leave, you need to, He's like, before you get another face or new identity, let me take a look at the old one, will you? So Ray makes his mask, his costume disappear. He turns back into Ray for a moment. And he's like, you better get out of here before I start blubbering. And Hyatt's like, Professor Harriman, there is one more thing. I don't make it a practice of metal, you know that. But maybe there's someone else who likes to say goodbye to you. He's like, well, I don't know the way we left things. I don't know what to say. And he noticed that as they're talking about Enrique, Norm got really quiet. And so he goes to an answering machine, which he pops out of the answering machine, and he finds her in bed sleeping. And he's like, why do I wake her up? No, at this point, it'd be cruel to involve it, He's like, she's beautiful. She loves me. Am I crazy to walk away? No, at this point, it'd be cruel to involve anyone in my life. She doesn't need me. She needs time to forget about me. Wait a minute, flowers with a card? there's a flower, as he said, there's flowers on a desk next to her with a card that says, "Can we give it a chance, Norm?" He's like, "Norman, you stud. Maybe time isn't always the answer, huh?" He's like, "Give it a chance, Ricky." As he puts a flower on the bed next to her, and she kind of wakes up and picks up the flower and holds it. She goes back to sleep. And as he said, she's a very beautiful woman. I'm not a huge fan of the short hair on women normally, but she pulls it off. And again, a very beautiful woman. Again, she lays back here on page 19. She goes back to sleep. Just beautiful. Her nightgown or whatever slipping off her shoulder. A beautiful woman, as Kevin would say over my G.I. Joe show.
Hot?
Yes. And then we get Gene talking about how, Ray never said goodbye to her. And he's like, "How you know, Gene?" "You're right. He might have. I never got to say it to him." And Ray and Norm and Gene are a book signing for the new book called The Atom Farewell. And one of the guys like, "Is Ray going to be here?" Well, first he's like, "Hey, you're the Atom's wife, right?" "Not anymore. Think of me as his co-author. Now, who can I inscribe this to?" And he's like, "Just sign your name. I might resell it." Oh my, what a charming thought. Again, eBay before eBay. They get books signed, sell on eBay for more money. He's like, "I got to get Ray Palmer's name on here. That'll really drive up the value. Did you step out or something?" He's like, "Didn't you read the papers? Ray stepped out all right for good." He's like, "You don't mean he died, did you?" That's one way to look at it. Or he could say he managed one miraculous size change. And again, we get a city shot here of people walking down the street, cars. And he's talking about how he wanted to blend into the masses like a grain of sand on a beach. And I like the way this is written. He's like, "I know he's out there somewhere, waiting for the emergency. They'll bring him back. Maybe it's happening already. All I can say that if Ray Palmer's dead, long live the Atom." And there's a pin up on the last page where it says, "Long live the Atom," of the Atom changing. It's a nice pin up. It's Ray in a jumping, leaping position. The Atom symbols around him. A yellow blurb around him with black on the outskirts. I like the picture. I wish it had more of a background than just the yellow and black. I don't know, just something about that distracts from me. It's a good drawing, though. It's fantastic. But, yeah, it was a good ending. I loved the storyline. And real quick, to the letter column. Again, this letter column is basically people hearing about the cancellation of the Atom and people complaining about it, and being sad that the Atom's over. Please don't cancel the power of the Atom. Issue 14 is really hitting a stride without saying artwork and plot, cover great detail, and so forth. And if Roger Stern is no longer available for the future issues, perhaps Ostrand or Yale team could pick up the pieces. Again, everyone's saying what a great book it was, and I agree. And I like the next issue blurb down here on the last letters page. Next issue. Wah, Casey Carlson. Fantastic. And they're saying that Atom, the book's gone, but I'll appear in the DC Universe. However, after the events of this issue, we'll probably be heading for deep cover. The Atom's been a mainstay of the DC Universe, and you can bet that he'll pop up somewhere for too long. And it tells where the people that are working on this book are going. But again, I love this series, as I've talked about. That's why I'm covering it on Head Speaks. I think it was a great series. I think this last story arc was fantastic. What do you guys think? Did you guys read The Power of the Atom? Did you read it when it first came out? Are you reading it now? Let me know what you think. Send me an email to head@headspeaks.com and give me your thoughts on Power of the Atom. But yeah, I love this series. I'm sad it went away. But Ray does turn back up in the comics. In fact, the next place you can catch him, chronologically speaking, well, not really, I guess chronologically speaking, but it came out later. There was the Atom Special number 1. There was a flashback that came out in 1993. But as reading this, if you're in November of 1989 when this issue came out, not quite a year later, over in Suicide Squad number 44, issue called Grave Matter, the Atom shows back up. I covered that over my Task Force X podcast. I've been covering those issues. So again, if you want more on the Atom, check out my Task Force X podcast. Just because it's my podcast and I would say check out all the episodes. But if you're interested in the Atom, check out, I believe it's episode 58. Came out June of 2022. Episode was entitled Boomerang Night Courts. I believe that's where I start covering the Atom over in Task Force X. So definitely check out Suicide Squad if you want more on the Atom. I may cover some more of his appearances here at some point, but for now I've been covering him for a while, so I think we're going to switch gears for a little bit and cover something else. We'll see what happens. I've got a lot of different ideas. Some I want to be their own show, some I'll cover here. I'm not quite sure where I'm going next. But that's going to do it for this episode of Head Speaks. We finished with Power of the Atom, a sad time, but it was a great story. I loved all 18 issues, some more than others. The artwork was, either hit or miss on some issues, but overall, I enjoyed the artwork. I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the whole thing. I was sad when it went away. Again, I started picking this up. I think it was issue 3, I want to say, when it first came out, but then I picked up every issue that came out after that, because that's when I started picking up comics on the general. So that's going to do it for this episode. Be sure to write to me. Let me know what you think. And join us here next month as I cover something. We'll see. But until next month, remember, Head has spoken. Thank you for listening to another fantastic episode of Head Speaks. Hope you enjoyed it. If so, let me know. Drop me an email to head@headspeaks.com or visit our home at head.headspeaks.com. You can also visit and talk with me on Facebook and Google+, both under Head Speaks. You can also send an MP3 file with your thoughts and I can play that on the air. And you can also get more of me on my other podcasts. Be sure to listen to Task Force X, where monthly I look at John Ostrander's Suicide Squad and Paul Kuppenberg's Checkmate comics from the 80s and early 90s. Also, over on G.I. Joe, A Real American Headcast, my podcasting friends Ryan Daly and Kyle Benning, along with myself, are looking at all of the G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero comics, and related titles from Marvel and IDW. All of my headcasts are available on iTunes and Stitcher, along with the respective blogs and my main page at headspeaks.com. All comments, thoughts, and opinions expressed on Head Speaks are owned wholly by the speaker of said comments and do not express the opinions of Head Speaks, unless, of course, I'm the one making the comments. Head Speaks, Task Force X, and G.I. Joe, A Real American Headcast, are all part of the Headcast family. So join us next month for another wonderful episode of Head Speaks. Until then, I'll see you in the funny pages. Good night.